Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ank FetVlogs. Okay, let's start off with this. Happy Pride Month, everybody, because today's episode is going to have a lot to do with Pride, and I want to talk about some shit that has been in my craw for about roughly a year now. It's longer than a year, actually, but I find it amazing, right, that you always have a group of people that are constantly trying to be exclusionary. This is not only a fucking problem in the LGBT community, but also in kink. And a lot of other things too. See, here's the funny thing. In the kink community, people, and in the sex work community, let's say both kink, sex work, and LGBTQ, there is a group of people who want to make LGBTQ kick out the T and automatically say that it should be trans exclusionary. Right? You have a group of queer people saying that, of gay people saying that, of lesbians saying that, but it's not a high contingent. The same way that you have people who want to who want to exclude sex workers. Swerves and turfs, right? Let me point out something, and I personally think that this is actually kind of funny, is that every fucking year, people start yelling who's a swerf and a turf, while also trying to say that they should exclude kink from Pride. And I'm thinking to myself, excuse me? The leather community has always been a major point to Pride. The leather community. There are dominatrixes that go to Pride. They are sex workers, mind you. Dominatrixes, doms and pro doms and pro doms and pro dominatrixes are sex workers. So explain to me how it makes fucking sense to exclude them. And then you complain about sex worker exclusion, but then apply the exclusion to whoever it is at the time that you want to treat like shit. Again, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Especially when Pride was started by two sex workers. We'll get to that in a moment. But this reminds me of something that happened about roughly 6-7 years ago. 6-7. I think that's about right. Yeah, I did the hand gesture. By the way, that one's for you, Clementine. I know that you have been telling me I keep saying 6-7. This time I caught myself doing it. So, roughly about 6-7 years ago, there was a woman that I ended up having an argument with on Facebook. I never forgot about this argument because it was the most ludicrous fucking thing I had ever seen. This straight cis white woman decided to tell queer people, to tell LGBTQ people that Pride shouldn't be about sex. Pride should be about just you all being happy that you're gay. Right? And I go, wow, miss, I didn't know you were gay. I thought you were straight. I am straight. Well, then what the fuck are you telling gay people how to celebrate their time? That doesn't make any fucking sense. And then she says, well, it shouldn't have anything to do with sex. Plus, I want to be able to take my kids to Pride so that they can learn to accept and love their aunt. Shouldn't you be teaching them that every other, hold on. So let me get this straight. So they should only learn that in June when it's Gay Pride Month? Is that what you're trying to fucking say? That when it's LGBTQ Pride Month, That's when your kids should learn to appreciate their aunt. So what does that mean? That every other day that she's just another fucking sinner? What the fuck? Like, no, honey. That is not how the fuck that works. Well, I didn't say that. You implied that. I don't know if you knew you implied it, but that's exactly what you're implying. And I don't understand that. Because, like, so, wait a minute. So, did you ever teach your kids about the birds and the bees? No. Why the hell would I do that? Okay, so let me get this straight. Just let me see if I got this clear. You want to take your kids to an event that's essentially about the birds and the bees, right? But you refuse to teach your kids about the birds and the bees so that they would understand what the fuck they're there for. See what I mean? It doesn't make sense. But you have queer people who also think the same way that dipshit thought. You do have people that are like, well, we need a more family-friendly pride. No, you can get off your lazy ass and make a family-friendly pride. You should not go over here and try to morph pride for everybody else. You want a family-friendly pride? Make one. Ain't that hard. Make it a black party. And then from there, work it out. You can get organizations have more than just 2 people. They can volunteer to be at your one and the regular one. You want to know what it is, though? You don't want to do that because you're lazy. And the truth is that you want everybody else to curtail to you. Fuck you. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If you want a family-friendly pride, make one. I said it back then, too. My stance hasn't changed. Go and make one. Make a kid-friendly pride if that's what you want to do. Do I think that it is important that you have a kid-friendly one? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You have teenagers out there that are trying to learn about that are gay and they are trying to figure themselves out. Yeah, that makes sense. What I'm telling you to do is go and make a family-friendly pride that is acceptable for them. Don't go to the main pride and tell them that they need to change the event for you. Now, this goes into the wallflowers. The wallflowers really piss me off because those are the motherfuckers who usually sit in their house smelling like old tuna salad and cheese, telling everybody that they don't want to die when they go outside. Well, you already thought you were going to die when you went outside and the wind gently breathed some pollen to your fucking direction. Remember? So why the fuck is it that all of a sudden now you have a problem with the idea that you might die at Pride? Honey, have you not watched the news? Have you not paid attention to the people that are out here counter-protesting Pride? Billy Bob and Timothy came here with their boomsticks. They've been here with that shit. You don't hear the fucking banjos when them motherfuckers walk? You don't hear that shit? They made a fucking float that they didn't drive anywhere. They just sat there and looked fucking stupid. These are the same people who, because they were upset at the fact that Pride existed, felt they needed to make a straight person Pride. Why? Why do you need a straight person Pride? And then all it was a bunch of middle-aged men with fucking beer guts holding Coors Light or some shit with their boomsticks and holding their families and waving, and then they knew they looked stupid. They knew. But they thought that it was upsetting you, which technically it did, because some of the wallflowers sitting there on Tumblr like fucking lost their shit over it. And I was thinking to myself, why? They look absolutely fucking dumb. And they don't even look like they're having fun. They weren't, because it made no sense. And they only had, what, like 5 people to attend it? So you have all these fucking clowns walking in the street with a float for no fucking reason. Because they always have to have that persecuted complex. Again, I ask you a question. What the fuck would making it family friendly do? Because they wouldn't stop hating you even if you did make it family friendly. Did you not get that? You making the event family friendly ain't changing shit. They're still going to fucking hate you. They still want you dead. Here's the even crazier shit, right? Here's the real crazy shit. Billy Bob and Timothy over there? You know, with their boomsticks that they keep bringing with them? Billy Bob and Timothy have been fucking each other in the ass since they saw Brokeback Mountain 20 years ago. Yes, you need to understand, a lot of these men, these cis white men, who always seemingly fall into the manosphere and end up following guys that are gayer than them, are literally fucking each other in the ass. So you mean to tell me Billy Bob and Timothy have been fucking for years, but they are coming here to Pride to scare gay people? Do you not think that there is something wrong here? You don't think that there's something wrong? You don't see an issue with any of that shit? I do. I think it's absolutely fucking ludicrous. It is the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen. So I ask you again, what difference does it make if you make it family-friendly Pride? What difference does it make? What is the difference? They're still going to hate you. They're still bringing their boomsticks, and they're still going to counter-protest you. And if you're not careful, they might attack you. They're not going to change. They are hate mongers. There is a reason they're called hate mongers. Again, if you are too afraid, and you're so afraid of, oh, I might die, you know what? Then you weren't a part of the cause. You weren't you weren't for the cause to begin with. Let me tell you something about what Pride is for, right? Pride is about the sexual freedom of LGBTQ people. Pride has always been fought for from the very beginning by trans people. That's why I don't understand the TERFs existing. Because the TERFs are people who are LGBTQ who want to be trans exclusionary, right? But if it wasn't for the trans people, you wouldn't have the fucking civil rights and the fighting that you have now. So what is your fucking cause, you fucking idiot? Here's another thing. Sex workers were the ones that went out here and fought for your civil rights as a queer individual. Sex workers. So, color me fucking surprised when I hear a sex worker saying that kink people shouldn't be there. That you need to leave your kink at home. But is perfectly okay with asking you for birthday presents because their birthday is in the same month and because they're queer too, that you should celebrate them and not actual, causes. You know what I have to say about that? Fuck you too. Because let me tell you something, honey. I know that the person that said that and their friends are absolute fucking clowns. And they're going to do the same shit that they do all the time. And that is, as soon as this comes out, they're going to start posting about how therefore blah, 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 blah. And notice that they'll start going down the list. And then they'll start retweeting black people. And then they'll start being like, oh, we were always for this. And their fucking fan base will lick their fucking feet and start saying they can do no wrong. Watch. Guaranteed. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were two trans women of color who were out fighting for your rights during the Stonewall. Oh God, I am tongue twisting myself. The Stonewall riots, right? The riot was already getting ready to be started. It was already starting. Was already underway when Marsha got there. But Marsha was the loudest one. One of the loudest people there. Her and Sylvia were out there for almost a week, fighting for your rights. Let me tell you why I have an issue with a sex worker saying some of the stupid exclusionary shit that they do. You have Smurfs and TERFs trying to remove sex workers and trans people from the from LGBTQ. Or just exclude them in sex workers in general. But let me tell you what the fucking problem with that is. Again, your civil rights as a queer person was defended by a person who was a sex worker. Your civil rights, I'll say it again for those in the back, were defended. Your civil rights as a queer person was defended by a trans woman, two trans women of color. Not one, two. And with everybody else, they stood out there and marched and rioted. Do you know that the Stonewall Inn was set on fire by the police? They burned that fucker down. Ain't the first time they burned some shit down, because there was a situation in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, where they decided to go and bomb an entire neighborhood and killed a lot of people. Do you think that them setting that place on fire was an accident? And again, the same people that want to capitulate to the bigots that are trying to kill them also want to break bread with the police. Listen, homie, I don't give a damn if a cop is gay or not. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. But the last time I checked, right, and I'm going to state this out loud, not all cops are terrible. The problem is that when the deck is stacked against you, you get more of the terrible cops than you get the good ones. And let's not talk about their union, because their union, in my personal opinion, is filled with crooked cops. That's just my personal opinion. But here's what I gotta say. You mean to tell me you want to sit there and give free barbecue and stand there and talk to them like as if nothing is wrong, even though the cops are the ones that technically are the reason why you're out there protesting to begin with? Did you not realize that? The cops are out there, like the police. Remember this. The police attacked the queer people first. They were the ones harassing them. They were the ones creating files on them. This shit was so fucking prevalent that even the fucking X-Men referenced it. Didn't realize that? What do you think that the mutant registration files were supposed to be? Again, you mean to tell me you want to break bread with them when they were beating the shit and killing people and turning their backs on queer people that were getting killed? Things have not changed. Things have not changed that much. I don't know why you think that they have. Darling, I think that you are in an absolute dream where you are coming up with bullshit to explain your own fucking laziness. I'm telling you right now, things have not changed. It has not gotten better. We're walking towards, but we still have not reached the promised land. We still do not have equality. And it doesn't matter how many pieces of bread or barbecue you share with the police. It doesn't matter how much you try to capitulate to the fucking racists. They're still going to beat the shit out of you. That's what's going to happen. But then, don't worry. Scapegoating everybody else for your own safety makes a lot more sense, right? I don't want to die. Marsha P. Johnson started an organization called STAR, right? And I want to make sure I get this right. I have it here of what STAR actually stood for. STAR was the Street the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries. It was an organization dedicated to sheltering young transgender individuals who were shunned by their families. You know, the same thing that we have going on even today. You know, parents kicking out their kids because they're gay. Parents kicking out their kids because they're trans. Instead of understanding them, kicking them out and only listening to the propaganda that they are given. That shit. She became more prevalent in the 1970s. Because 1 year after the riots, right? Because they were fighting back against the police, just to let you know. That's exactly what was happening. They fought back. In the 70s, they started doing more advocacy. And that's when they started doing marches and parades. And that's where we get the Pride Parade today. All of that was right there in Greenwich Village. When the AIDS epidemic became a big thing, a lot of those people who had AIDS didn't stop the fight. They knew the clock was ticking for them. They knew there was no cure. And they fought hard for your rights, regardless of the fact, knowing that their days were numbered. Now, Marsha P. Johnson did have mental issues. She had mental issues. She had spouts with mental health breakdowns and stuff like that. She never knew, like, she continued to engage in sex work because she didn't know any other way to make any money, which is really fucking sad to say the least, isn't it? She ended up developing HIV too, and that was back in 1990, if I'm not mistaken. But the sheer fact that even with all of her issues, with all of her breakdowns, with all of everything, she was still out there fighting. All of them were still out there fighting. And they were doing everything that they can to better things for the future, to make a better community for the future, to make a better world for the future, for your civil rights as a queer person. The thing that bothers me, right, is the sheer fact that people play the exclusionary scapegoat game, where we have to exclude one in order to in order to make a better in order to protect ourselves. We have to exclude trans people. We have to exclude sex workers. We have to exclude kink. When is it going to be you're going to exclude bi and just exclude intersex? Regardless of the fact that, again, the people that hate you, the ones that are trying to kill you, have been doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. They are still trying to tie you to pedophiles, and just so that they can justify killing you, even though being gay has nothing to do with that. Just like with kink, let's say the ABDL community. Let's use ABDLs for instance, right? They still do the same to them too. No matter how it's explained, they don't care. They don't care. They just want to be someone's judge, jury, and executioner. And they always are down for a good execution. You need to start waking up. You over here saying how you're scared to die, and I don't want to die. Yeah, you know what? If that is your take, don't ever leave the house. You are no good to anybody. And what I mean by that is, you are no good to the cause or anybody else. You are going to get yourself and others hurt because you're not willing to stand and fight. There are ways for you to do stuff. Donate your time. Donate your time. Go out there. Make food for those that are underprivileged, those that are out on the street. Go and help those centers and shelters out there for people who are queer. Go and do that. Every so often, I go out there and I start packing food. There are organizations that I like to help out and I pack food. I go over there, put on some latex gloves from that they have, an apron, and start packing food into Tupperware for them. That's what I do. Go out there and give your time. Be a part of your community and try to make it a better place. Because let me tell you something. Pride isn't just for you to go out there with your pride flag around your neck and dance around like a fucking idiot. That's not what it's only for. It's not only to go out there and celebrate kink, to celebrate like LGBTQ, to celebrate all of the things that make us different. That's not what that's only for. It's not. What it's also for is for us to be out there, to remember those that fought before us, to remember those that were out there on the battlefield with AIDS and HIV, who died out there, knowing that it was already over for them. They still did what they did to make a better future for you. That's what you need to remember. That's what actually mattered. It's not about dancing around with the pride flag. It's not about just going around with all the iconography. No. What it's about is building a better future for those that come after you. That's what it's about. For you to be the motivation for the next generation, so that they can be the motivation for the next one. The fight isn't over. the fight isn't over. I want to talk about one other thing before I end this episode. Roughly about 10 years ago, about, I would say a little bit more than 10 years, because I never forgot this. A little over 10 years ago, I got on the train to go and visit my family in New York City. And I should have known something was off when I left the house because things were very odd on this particular trip. And I never forgot it. When I got on the train, I got to my seat and I thought everything was fine. I set up my computer like I normally did. This particular time, there was a woman that ended up sitting right next to me. And her and I had a really wonderful conversation, and it was really nice because I believe that she was a teacher and I was playing video games and also like old retro games and working on my book. Something fascinating fucking happened. And to this day, it's not, and when I say fascinating, I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, it is baffling that this even fucking took place. The conductor came through, and this man was acting like he came out of a 90s, like a 90s hood black movie. And I was like, I'm down. I'll listen. I'll see where this is going. Soul woman ended up, an old white woman ended up asking him a question, and he just answered her in the most rude way possible. And I was like, oh, he's one of these guys. Okay, that's interesting. I don't like his attitude. He was hateful as fuck. He would only respond to black people in a nice tone. White people, he was just going off and treating them like shit. And I thought, I was like, okay, this is weird. Then he came to me and had the most irrational attitude I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is for. He didn't know how to gauge me, is what it seemed like, right? And so I just said, yo, what's good? And he's like, let me get your ticket. So I gave him my ticket and everything. Gets it to the woman next to him, next to me. And he was nice to her. And my guess is because he thought that her and I were, I think that's what it was. And then he went back like to the main food car. Now, later on, I would go and try to get lunch while I was on this train. And while I'm standing online, I have my headphones on and I'm listening to music, but I have one ear open. And he's talking to another conductor. And he's talking about how, yeah, I remember back in the day how me and the boys, I used to be one of the gangbangers. What? Okay, now I'm fascinated and I've started listening further. Yeah. And he said, yo, you used to be a gangbanger? He said, yeah. He said, beating up on queer people. He said, and I'm fucking, and he used an F slur. And I go, are you fucking serious? I was like, what? And he was talking about how he didn't have an issue with the police because the police never really stopped him from beating the shit out of these people. That was his words. And I'm looking at him like, homie, what? Then he said something along the lines of, gay people aren't supposed to be black. Blacks aren't supposed to be gay. And I'm like, the fuck am I hearing? This man was talking about how he felt that he was doing a service because he was ridding the world of queers while also fixing the black community, setting some of these black gay men straight. The fuck? Okay. So I made sure that I kept a mental note of this. And I looked him dead in the face. And he looks at me. And I look at him, and I had this look like I wanted to beat the shit out of him. And he was not expecting that. And like he jumped back a little bit, and he's like, "Yo, what's wrong with you?" I said, "You." And he's like, "Oh, I gotta go." And he gets up and he leaves. I did not see him for the rest of that ride. But apparently me and 47 other people called Amtrak and reported this asshole for that. I didn't see anyone on that crew that was on that train ever again. Mind you, I took that train almost every year. And at least 2 to 3 times a year. More, if not more. I never saw that dude again after that. My guess is that they fired him. Him and his little buddy. None of the people that were working on his crew I ever saw again. And I found that shit fascinating. I found it fascinating that this man was so bold and brazen to talk about what he had done. Now, I want you to understand there are bigots everywhere. They come in not only white, but they come in black, Hispanic, and every other color in the rainbow. Hell, you still see that one video of the guy going, "Why are you gay?" You still see that video. It is baffling to me that these people are so bold and brazen about how much they hate different people. They're extremely bold and brazen about it. And it's something that bothers the fuck out of me whenever I see shit like that. Because my exact thought is, how can you be born with that much hate? How? But understand this, there are still people that are queer that would like to break bread with assholes like that. Just remember that. The last part of this I want to put is what happened to Marsha P. Johnson. And why I keep saying about why the police are not your friend. The police said that Marsha had killed herself. That after her body was found in the Hudson River. She didn't kill herself. She was assaulted and murdered. And the police turned their back on her and turned their back on justice because they were still fucking embarrassed over what the fuck had taken place almost 20 to 30 years ago prior. You need to understand things have not changed. These people have not changed. It will always be like this. And you, as a queer person, and as queer, and to those that are queer people of color, you must be prepared. Stop listening to the nonsense of those that try to cosplay just so they can get money from you. Stop listening to them. because they will always take the side of those that hate you, even if they are queer themselves. They will always think of themselves first and never you. Again, pride is not just for us. It's in remembrance of those that fought for our civil rights as queer people, and those of us here now fighting for the next generation. And it'll be for the next generation to do the exact same thing for the generation afterwards until we reach the promised land. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you listening to this episode. Please look forward to the other episode that I will be doing on Pride. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.